Most Ford engines do not make it to 200,000 miles, but a small group of them quietly roll past 300,000 miles, with the original block still intact, the original rotating assembly still turning, and owners who have never touched anything more serious than an oil change. I have been working on Fords for over 15 years, and I know exactly which engines those are, why they survive when others do not, and what the owners of high-mileage examples are doing differently. Today, we are going through every Ford engine that can realistically hit 300,000 miles, what makes each one capable of getting there, and the specific things that kill them before they have a chance. Let's start with the engine that has the longest documented track record of extreme mileage in Ford's entire lineup, the 7.3-liter Powerstroke diesel. If you own a late 90s or early 2000s Super Duty with this engine under the hood, you are sitting on one of the most bulletproof diesel power plants ever bolted into a pickup truck. The 7.3 Powerstroke was produced from 1994 to 2003, and examples with 300,000, 400,000, and even 500,000 miles on the original engine are not rare. They are documented, photographed, and celebrated in diesel communities around the country. Here's why it gets there when other engines don't. The 7.3 was designed with massive mechanical margins. The rotating assembly, the crankshaft, connecting rods, and pistons was built far heavier than required for the power levels the engine produced from the factory. Ford and International, who co-developed this engine, over-engineered the bottom end specifically because they knew this engine would go into hard-working trucks that would pull heavy loads for decades. The injector system on the 7.3 is a HEUI design, hydraulically actuated and electronically controlled, which means each injector operates using engine oil pressure rather than a high-pressure common rail. This system is simpler in fundamental mechanical terms than modern diesel injection systems and is proven more forgiving of minor maintenance lapses over long periods. What kills a 7.3 before it reaches 300,000 is almost always neglect of one specific item, the oil. This engine runs its injection system on the same oil that lubricates the engine, which means degraded oil doesn't just wear out bearings, it starves injectors. Owners who stretch oil changes past 5,000 miles on conventional oil are gambling with the injection system every single time. Every 7.3 that makes 300,000 miles has an owner who changed the oil on schedule without exception. That is not a coincidence. It is the pattern. The second engine on this list is the one that surprises people the most, the 5.0-liter Coyote V8. Ford introduced this engine in 2011 in the FE, F-150, and Mustang, and early skeptics questioned whether a high-revving aluminum block V8 with dual overhead cams and variable valve timing had any business competing with the longevity reputation of older pushrod engines. 12-plus years of real-world data have answered that question definitively. Coyote V8s are regularly hitting 250,000 miles in F-150s with minimal issues, and the number of examples crossing 300,000 is climbing every year as the early production trucks age into high-mileage territory. The Coyote survives because Ford designed it with chain-driven cams rather than a belt, used robust forged steel connecting rods in the factory build, and gave it an oiling system with enough capacity to keep the variable valve timing components properly supplied at all temperatures. The twin independent variable camshaft timing system, which Ford calls TVCT, is the one area where maintenance matters most. These phaser systems are oil pressure dependent. They rely on clean, properly viscous oil to hold cam position accurately. Running low-quality oil, extending drain intervals, or ignoring an early oil change warning will cause the phasers to wear prematurely. A cam phaser job on a Coyote V8 runs between $2,000 and $4,000, depending on whether chains, guides, and tensioners need replacement simultaneously. Every Coyote that hits 300,000 miles has an owner who treated oil changes as non-negotiable. The third engine is the 6.7-liter Powerstroke diesel that Ford introduced in 2011 for the Super Duty lineup. This was a significant moment because it was the first Powerstroke diesel that Ford designed entirely in-house without International. The 6.7 was built from the ground up around the demands of heavy towing and hauling, and it has accumulated a track record over its production life that puts it firmly on the 300,000-mile list. Fleets running 6.7-liter Powerstrokes in consistent service, utility trucks, construction haulers, agricultural equipment regularly document them crossing 300,000 and 400,000 miles, with engine-out failures being the exception rather than the rule. What the 6.7 has working in its favor is a compacted graphite iron engine block, which is significantly stronger and more rigid than conventional gray iron or aluminum. This material resists cracking and distortion under the extreme cylinder pressures that turbocharged diesel combustion generates, and that structural integrity over hundreds of thousands of thermal cycles is a major reason these engines hold together when others don't. The cooling system is another strength. The 6.7 runs a reverse flow cooling design where coolant enters the heads first rather than the block, which keeps combustion chamber temperatures more consistent and reduces the thermal stress that causes head gasket failures in other engines. What kills a 6.7 early is ignoring the EGR system and the emissions components. This engine has an EGR cooler that fails in specific conditions, and when it fails, coolant enters the combustion chamber. Owners who catch the warning signs early, white smoke at startup, coolant loss without visible leaks, coolant mixing with oil, and address them promptly protect the long-term health of the engine. Owners who ignore those signs until the engine has been contaminated are looking at a catastrophic repair bill. The 6.7 Powerstrokes that reach 300,000 miles are maintained by people who treat coolant flushes and EGR inspections with the same seriousness as oil changes. The fourth engine on this list is one that doesn't get enough credit in these conversations: the 4.6-liter and 5.4-liter Triton V8 family, specifically in two-valve configuration. These engines powered F-150s, Expeditions, and Crown Victorias through the 1990s and the 2000s, and the police-spec Crown Victorias using these engines routinely accumulated 300,000 to 400,000 miles in fleet service. The engine itself is mechanically straightforward, uses a single overhead cam per bank driven by a chain, and was built with substantial clearances and a lubrication system that prioritizes reliability over peak performance. The two-valve Triton has a specific weakness that must be addressed before it becomes catastrophic: spark plug ejection and spark plug breakage on removal. Ford used a thin-wall plug design in these engines that can crack on removal if the plugs are not replaced on schedule or if the engine has accumulated significant heat cycles without maintenance. On the 5.4-liter in particular, broken plugs that require extraction are a known issue, and the repair cost for a plug extraction job ranges from several hundred to over $1,000 per cylinder depending on severity. Owners who replace plugs on time, meaning before they fuse to the head from heat cycling, sidestep this problem entirely. The Triton V8s that see 300,000 miles also benefit from regular cleaning of the upper intake manifold, which accumulates carbon deposits from the PCV system over time, and from owners who never ignore coolant maintenance. A neglected cooling system is what typically sends a high-mileage Triton into terminal territory. The fifth engine deserving a place on this list is one that generates debate: the 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6. This engine has a polarized reputation. It is both praised for its performance and criticized for its maintenance demands, and both positions are correct. The EcoBoost 3.5 can absolutely reach 300,000 miles. There are documented examples of first-generation EcoBoost 3.5 F-150s crossing that threshold with the original engine and original turbochargers still functioning. But it demands more from its owner than any naturally aspirated engine on this list. The direct injection system that gives this engine its fuel efficiency is the same system responsible for carbon accumulation on intake valves. Unlike port injection engines where fuel washes the back of the intake valve clean with every cycle, direct injection bypasses the valve entirely. Oil vapor from the PCV system deposits on the back of the valves, and, without any solvent effect from fuel, the carbon builds up over tens of thousands of miles until it restricts airflow, causes rough idle, and reduces power. The fix is an induction service using walnut blasting to remove the deposits in the EcoBoost 3.5 engines that run 300,000 miles. Typically have owners who perform this service every 80,000 to 100,000 miles, rather than waiting until the symptoms force their hand. The turbochargers themselves are another maintenance obligation. The 3.5-liter EcoBoost turbos are oil-cooled and oil-lubricated, and they are exposed to extreme heat every time the engine shuts down while the turbo is still hot. This heat soak bakes oil in the turbo bearing housing if the oil is not fresh and properly formulated. Every 3.5-liter EcoBoost that reaches 300,000 miles has been run on a full synthetic oil of the correct viscosity and changed at intervals short enough that the oil never degrades to the point where it carbonizes in the bearing housing. The owners who stretch oil changes on EcoBoost engines to 10,000 miles or more are shortening turbocharger life every single time they do it. There's a common thread running through every engine on this list that is more important than the engineering, more important than the displacement, and more important than whether the engine uses diesel combustion or port injection or turbocharging. The thread is owner behavior. Not one of these engines reaches 300,000 miles in the hands of an owner who ignores maintenance intervals, uses whatever oil is cheapest, defers coolant flushes, or dismisses early warning signs as something to handle later. Every single documented example of a Ford engine crossing 300,000 miles is connected to ownership that treated maintenance as a discipline rather than a suggestion. The engines that fail before 150,000 miles are not always poorly designed. Many of them are the same designs as the engines on this list, running in vehicles owned by people who pushed oil changes past 10,000 miles on conventional oil, ignored a slow coolant leak for 8 months, never changed the transmission fluid, and ran the factory-filled coolant for 12 years without testing it. The engine didn't fail them, they failed the engine. If your engine is on this list, you have something worth protecting. The 7.3 Powerstroke, the Coyote V8, the 6.7 Powerstroke, the 2-valve Triton, and the 3.5 EcoBoost all have the mechanical capability to reach 300,000 miles and beyond. The question is whether your maintenance habits give them a chance to prove it. Get the oil changed on schedule with a quality synthetic. Flush the coolant before it becomes acidic. Check the transmission fluid before it burns. Pay attention when the engine tells you something is different, because the owners who are rolling past 300,000 miles right now are not driving exceptional trucks. They're driving ordinary trucks exceptionally well. If you found this useful, subscribe, hit the bell, and drop a comment below telling me what engine you're running and how many miles you're sitting at. I want to see your numbers. I'll see you in the next one.